Hey everybody, welcome to Marketing Monday. Glad to have you here with me. As always, as you come in, let me know where you're from, kind of where you have some properties. And today we're going to talk about some listing optimization. I know it's something that we talk about a decent amount, or something that's mentioned a decent amount, because obviously it's such a key component of making sure your rankings are high enough, making sure that you are getting the most, you're ranked high for the number of bedroom counts that people look for. But I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of some of the data analysis that we do as we're kind of looking into our listing, some of the ways that we look into it for how we optimize it. And I think a lot of people think we look at our listings kind of in a silo of, I try and pick the best cover photo for my property, or I try and pick the best top 5 for my property. And there is certain aspects of that, but there are some things, because I'm directly comparing them against other properties in a market, that I want to also take into account. So we're gonna kind of go through a little bit of that, some of the analysis, and we're gonna go through kind of a lot of the things that we do step by step as we're kind of going through making sure that headline's competitive, your cover photo's competitive, your top 5 are super, super compelling. And your listing descriptions, you have all your captions, all the little things we're trying to do to add into it, because the algorithm is so much more than just a, does your property fit their description? It's, do you have all of the captions? Do you have a lot of places of interest? Do you have kind of everything through text throughout? So it's picking up all those little parts and pieces. And then we know that if you saw my artificial intelligence, a little bit of talking, we'll use some of that today as well. But if you saw me talk about that last week, that you'll see that the softwares of the AIs are getting so good, at searching and realizing or analyzing photos, that that there's things that the algorithm is picking up just from what's included in your photos that you may not even realize that it's doing. And hey, Anthony, good to see you. And yes, so I'm not surprised. I'll pop this up for everyone that doesn't know. There's a lot of things Airbnb does testing wise that we don't always know all the full details of, or how things work. And so I'll give you another example, then we'll talk about this one for a second. So in another example, we were launching the Smith Lake Retreat, so the larger property in Smith Lake, Alabama, that sleeps 30 whatever. And when we're launching it, as we're going through some of the quality control stuff of, like, do all the fees show correctly, or is the pricing showing correctly, all that. And as we're doing it, the fee wasn't showing, the cleaning fee wasn't showing. Excuse me. And but it was showing for me, and I'm like, am I just logged in as a certain thing, or what's going on? And what we discovered through that was that for certain people, Airbnb will show an all-in, meaning that they don't show all the individual, they don't show the cleaning fee, they don't show anything like that. They show the Airbnb fee and then the property, which brings for certain totals, say it's $3,000 a night. And then for other people, Airbnb will actually break it down into the house, the cleaning fee, the Airbnb fee, also still $3,000 a night. The totals were the same, but the way it showed the breakdown was different for 2 different people. And so that's when we kind of saw firsthand that a lot of Airbnb tests some of those things. So I'm not surprised that Airbnb is testing a hero photo based on search results. It's very similar, actually, to the way that Facebook will, and if you do dynamic creative with Facebook ads, that Facebook will show different creative elements to different people based on their background, their history, a lot of their search as well. And they'll show a different photo if you have a collection of photos to different people, depending on kind of how they react in history to some of that stuff. So there's lots of that in there. And so I'm not surprised at all. So we just got to always be aware that as companies embrace AI more, that a lot of the things that we do will get fiddled with, in the nice way of putting that, compared to what we necessarily want sometimes. And we just got to be aware that that's going to happen, and just to try and control as much as we control. And there will be things outside of our control, and we'll do our best to handle that. So I'm gonna share my screen. We're kind of walk through a listing, and then we'll walk through some data, or looking as we're doing a little bit of research. So we'll share this window. I totally lost y'all. Where'd you go? There you are. Okay. So this is Elk Lodge. We've gone over this before, but I want to break down a few things just as we go about in the listing, the things that we're really wanting. Apparently the B got cut off at some point in time. I got to see if that's actually because it's too long or if that's the B is actually missing in there. But there's a lot of things that obviously we know, but I want to kind of highlight some of them. So obviously headline isn't just shown here. It's also shown here, but in an even more truncated version typically. So it'll, as you're searching for things, you have your home, what type of property it is, your headline, obviously they're highlighting free cancellation as a thing that's be something Airbnb is testing and something to highlight in here. And then bedrooms, bathrooms, all that kind of stuff, which is why a lot of times when we tell people, don't worry about putting your bedroom or bathroom count, like here, brand new luxury 7-bed with pool, because the 7 bedrooms is included in the search. You're like double down where you can put more information in there. And so it's always something to look out for. But hero image, your first image, and the and your title are the things that kind of carry over between the two. And obviously you can kind of click through the images and you can scroll through the whole thing, but understanding Airbnb one is doing a little bit of resizing here. So it's making everything square as it's fitting through if you are kind of scrolling through some of these. So to kind of keep that in mind, it's not showing everything the exact way it should be shown. Even the hero image itself isn't actually shown the way it normally is shown, because for this property, if I actually clicked into it, you'd see that the hero image itself is actually wider. Same thing for most of the photos, right? Because most of the photos are in landscape, and so they're wider. But a lot of the ways that it shows in both the search and in the top 5 are basically squares. These are slightly wider than squares, but they're not the full same width. Like I can see all the way out to the edge of these trees and all that kind of stuff, where it gets a little tighter in there. But it's just being aware of how it shows photos differently depending on your top 5, just so that they display properly. So always double check that things are being displayed, your photos are being displayed properly. So, but I always think of the content in a listing kind of in 2 categories. So one category is siloed content, meaning that yes, Airbnb looks at it and they see it. So things like image captions, your actual description for the property, all those things Airbnb sees, but it's not as important for those things as a direct comparison, or what other people are doing in your market doesn't impact me as much for those things. So if someone else, let's pick a random one. Let's do this one. It's like this one, if they don't have image captions, and they do have image captions, they do a decent job in this particular property. What they have is their image captions don't directly impact what I have as my image captions, or should have as my image captions. Same thing for their description. What they have as their description shouldn't directly impact what I have as my description. But there are things that are kind of, I want to take a look at the others that are ranking high in my market for my area. And obviously this is changes drastically, right? So you're like, always being incognito. I'm not right now, which is why I'm seeing a lot of our properties in the top. It always likes to do that. But always, as you're doing this, realize that there's lots of searches. The way you search changes everything. The number of guest count you search, the particular weeks or months can impact it. So you want to kind of do a couple spot checks and say, okay, I did week in June, week in July, might do a couple days during kind of some of the peak months that maybe might not be booked yet. I'm gonna go in with the map and kind of get a little bit closer. By default, usually it shows like a whole wide section of the market, but I may want to just include more direct competitors and let it kind of decide from there. And then I'm gonna start doing my kind of initial research. So the first thing I'm always trying to see is kind of what photo is the hero photo for most other properties and why. So a lot of times that you'll have, okay, it's a beautiful sunset. You're seeing the lagoon on the backside there. Lots of exterior properties. There are a couple that do collages. These must be owned by the same people because it's like the exact same font and design. But then some interesting ones, right? So there's like a living room, but there's nothing on TV. So that one's not necessarily the best one. Another living room, something on TV, another weird kind of cropped image living room. A couple other living rooms down here, but most of the time it is an exterior. Also noticing something kind of as just a general trend, that look at the interiors of some of the top properties. Very warm, very not that, what I would call the traditional beach where it's like a super bright blue with like some crazy furniture. There's a lot of whites. There's a lot of shiplap going on. There's a lot of browns in the furniture. Super cool photo here. This is the most color we've seen so far on a wall. Same kind of with this one. These must be a similar build because they are identical windows. They're almost identical photos. But what you're noticing is that there's kind of a common design theme that's kind of emerged of the top properties as well. So that's another thing when Bill a few weeks ago did his super property grader. You're kind of looking at your property versus other properties. You do this during the research phase, but you want to go back every now and then and do it as well to see, okay, of my top competitors, does my property still stand out the way it used to? Is it still a 9 or a 10 in design? Are there things that people have caught up on that I need to then change up? And so I use this property as an example here because this is one Bria designed. That's why Bria will typically go out and do something unique, like this giant surfer on the wall in the kitchen, which then kind of leans into, because you can kind of see it from the main dining area as well, or these stripes or whatever, to kind of continue to evolve and stand out and be different from the crowd, because in the crowd you can kind of see lots of same colors, lots of same palettes, lots of same design. So what used to stand out because it was different now isn't as different anymore. It's just part of the thing to keep an eye on. So as you kind of see, I think a lot of people want to think that the marketing and listing optimization and revenue management, and even design and all these parts and pieces are all separate from each other. But as Bill mentions, from the beginning, when you see a property, it's all about marketing. You're trying to get a guest to see themselves in that property. And everything plays into that: the design, the look, the feel, the layout, and then your images, your text, your descriptions. All of it creates this, overarching envelope of things to try and make your property, 1, unique, 2, stand out from the crowd, 3, be compelling for your ideal guests to stay there. But also that you can demand what you want to demand by creating the property people want to be at. And so as I'm looking, I'm trying to see, okay, super common things in images. 1, if I do a living room or if I want to test that, obviously that is compelling to some people, even though this one's super, super dark. A lot of our exteriors, some use text on it. Obviously, we're not huge fans of doing that, at least for your hero photo. But a lot of kind of super bright exteriors, either showing a view or showing a lot of the property itself or the property itself. And so that's super, super common. So what does that mean for us? That means that most likely if I'm going to test a hero photo, I want to test something that's similar but stands out a little bit. And so if it has a pool, show the pool. If it's super unique color, show the super unique color. If it's on the lagoon, show that it's on the lagoon. So you're standing out, you're being similar in that you're like, okay, there's a really bright exterior, looks really, really good, compelling in it, but you're trying to also show something super, super unique about the property to make someone stop. Because at the end of the day, our goal is to get someone to, as they're searching, to like, oh, this property looks awesome, let me click and learn more. That's really the goal of the headline, and it's the goal of the image itself to click and learn more. That's your whole goal in here, and then you can dig into more details and show them more of the property, all that stuff. But it's our primary goal with our cover photo and our headline. Then I'm going to start looking at some of the headlines for home. Sleeps 20, dock, volleyball. Chapter 5. Obviously, we aren't fans of using our brand name in the title itself, just because you're losing all the space of the name of the property in such a compelling spot where you can call out some things. So before I even click through photos, like this is Dragonfly. So I know 1, it's new, 2, there's a heated pool, 3, it's super close to the beach, 4, there's a fire pit. This one, Sleeps a ridiculous amount. There's a dock, there's volleyball, a bar. Okay. This one has a pool, private beach access, super cool. But I don't learn a whole lot. This one has stunning views. Most properties have some decent views. So it's not as much of a thing to stand out for you. And this one, bikes, arcade, barbecue, hot tub. So I'm trying to stand out real quick before someone ever clicks in. We're okay, image looks good. Let me check what's under it real quick. Oh, they have a fire pit. The pool's heated. But we're coming, in the shoulder months, so it's a great place to that's going to stand out for me. Or you're looking for someplace that does have the private pool or does have private access. So there's lots of ways to use it. Here, let me pop you up here. The SEO benefit if you have a direct booking site can be a balance of using your name and title, perhaps at the end. That's also true. Some of the other ways we do that is we will, as you probably saw when I got to, we'll use the logo for the property as a key image of the property. And so it's usually on the top 5. It's like 6 or 7 or 8. But that way, any of the people that are used to or the more cunning people can be like, oh, that's the name of this property. I can just search for Dragonfly Gulf Shores and find it. That is an important thing to remember. I think I talked about this before with some of the other properties that we have, that when we name properties, it's not just about naming a property a random name. We're not just calling it, Sunset Retreat on, at Smith Lake or whatever. We're naming it because we want it to be easily searchable. And so if you want to do a little bit of research and see what unique names stand out, because I don't have to then pay, like if you search for Dragonfly Gulf Shores, there's no other there's no like restaurant, there's no organization, there's nothing else. So the only top search result is our direct booking site when you search Dragonfly Gulf Shores. One that doesn't work so well for is actually Elk Lodge. Because Elk Lodge and Banner Elk, there's enough other lodges, very, very common. Elk is obviously super common in Banner Elk. And so if you search for Elk Lodge, Banner Elk, we're not the very, very top result. We're a little further down. And so, yeah, just pay all that kind of plays into our mind as we're naming properties and going through and making sure things are easily searchable. We include it there. We'll include it in the listing description as well as part of it. So images, your top one, I want it to be similar but different of the other ones that are top and compelling. Same thing for your title. Similar in kind of how people phrase stuff, how people shorten words people are using. So I'm looking at like, okay, we got luxury used, waterfront, Gulf views, pool, obviously, new home, beach view, steps to beach. This one, the 88-degree heated pool, an 85-inch TV standing right out in the front of there. Pet friendly, that's a great one to include. Super, super high up if you are, even though they aren't necessarily clicking the box when they're searching. It's a great way to do that. So I'm looking through all the words, the way people shorten stuff, and I'm trying to be similar but slightly different. Similar but more unique. That's my goal with both the your hero image and then your title. Then we can get into the top 5 photos. So again, remembering that Airbnb does some weird stuff sometimes and makes things square. Sometimes it doesn't. It's just weird like that. Depending on how it previews the property. I also want to make sure that things look right on mobile versus desktop. So there's understanding that your hero image is still the very first thing they see on mobile. Things kind of flow a little bit different on mobile, so just kind of always just pop back and forth to check on them. But realistically, your top 5, I'm trying to show off, besides the hero, what are the other 4 unique things about the property to kind of make it stand out. And that's what I'm trying to make in my top 5 photos. So take your cover out. What's the next 4 things that are super, super unique about a particular property? Elk Lodge is a great example. It has this crazy fire pit. So we see it from one side, but now you can kind of see it from the other side. There's a ton of land, but there's a game room with a bunch of games and stuff in it. And obviously it's 2 adjacent. There's the main house and the guest house. So it's might be hard to kind of see. Like it's over here in this photo, way over. It's hidden over here in this photo, but the game room's actually in the first floor of the guest house. So it's a better way to see that here. And so let me just I'll pull some random ones. So let's do this one. I'll do the weird living room, and we'll do this weird living room. And let's do this pool. And let's kind of look at some of the things here. And so This one, they're showing the pool off. Obviously, if you're going to use, say, 88-degree heated pool, you better have the pool as one of your first photos. Then you're trying to see what else are unique things about it. There's a bedroom. This one I have to click in to see all these photos, which is dangerous, by the way. Remember, because if you're using rooms, that means if I click in, it may not be the photo I get to. Theirs don't have room set up, so that's not so bad. Exterior, but none of these necessarily really super compel me. And then they have some duplicates, right? So like there's a bedroom, and then they show 3 bedrooms, and this little highlight. There's that little bar underneath, and they show the bar again. I don't like to duplicate things inside. I want to use every image to my full advantage. In this one, I also like things to match. So like they show me volleyball, show me volleyball. You talk about a bar, show me a bar. I don't see the bar. I see the kayaks. Kayaks are cool. And not that this bedroom's bad, living room's super, super cool. But if you tell me some things, and so this is a good example of one like that. And so in your first 5 photos, this one shows me 3 interiors, 2 of basically the same room, just slightly off from each other. You have private beach access. Show me a beach toys, but you could have showed me that having them out on the beach instead of just having them there. And so there's other ways to show stuff to be a little more compelling and to match what you say. Another one, sleeps 12 pool. Okay, show me the pool. Again, same room, back to back. And so this is something I see actually all the time. There's one more that you end up with these collection of your top 5 being super, super similar to each other. And I want to use the top 5 as a way to show 5 unique things about the property that I want to match with the title that I'm saying. So if I'm showing, we'll go back here. This one, we probably should have a photo of the fire pit, but we're showing off that you have the pool, you have these unique cabanas. We could probably swap out this one because it's kind of, I know why we're showing it, because it's unique to have these cabanas in a shaded area in a pool in Gulf Shores. But it's a little repetitive with the 2. I wouldn't mind putting the fire pit in here, but and we have steps to the beach, heated pool. You kind of got 3 good examples of different aspects of that, and then an interior to cap it off. So I'm trying to show more, show all the key components of a property, but still have it be compelling. And after the first 5, that's when you start getting to, actually going through, do Dragonfly as an example, where we'll do, there's the fire pit, it's image 6. We'll use an image, we use reviews, and then you kind of start going through when you come up the stairs, what's the first room you get to, living room, dining room, showing off some of those things, some exterior stuff. A lot of the properties, we go exterior to interior, with a focus on some of the more unique things of the interior, and then kind of room by room, which will then lead to all the little things, bits and pieces. Elk Lodge will do the same thing, kind of exterior. We get in the interior, we have some Christmas stuff left over, but get into it room by room, all the little parts and pieces, same stuff. I'm not as worried about when it comes to your image order. I'm worried most about your top 5 and then kind of walking through a story, meaning if you go all the exteriors, do the exteriors, then come inside. Don't jump back and forth. If you go to a room, kind of stay in that room for a second, then move to another room. Don't bounce back and forth, kind of progress through with the photos. But for today's purposes, I want to make sure the top 5 are maximized and that every image has a caption. Last week, I showed you the little cheat sheet with ChatGPT where you can actually go in there and just upload an image, and it can provide you at least a starting point for a caption. Super awesome for that. The more it knows about your property, the better those captions will be. And so that's a great way if you have 100 photos to actually go through and make sure every single photo has a unique, different caption, not just a caption, a unique and different caption, being as specific as possible, size of TV, type of coffee pot, use all the space possible to do that. Then the next most important thing is to have a really good kind of about or the description. So you have your short one about the space, and you have the longer one, the actual space. This one's just duplicated between the 2. I should probably go back in there and fix that. It shouldn't be that way. There should be a different one for about the space than there is for the space. So I'm gonna go find out why that happened. But as we go through, the whole point of this is to, 1, get them hooked, and 2, give them as much information as possible without having to ask you questions. And so a lot of times we'll go through guest communication, we'll go through previous messages, we'll go through phone calls. What are the common things in the sales process? So until someone actually buys from you and actually stays, what are the common questions? What are the common things people ask? What are the issues people typically run into? What are the kind of big things people look out for? What are the weird questions that only one person's ever asked ever? And we try and include stuff in here. And so, we get asked all the time, what's actually in the kitchen? Well, it has everything, literally, including down to cookie sheets to pizza cutters to a juicer. All the stuff's in it. Walking through the layout, the bedrooms. I don't think I mentioned this last week, but a lot of the properties, Elk Lodge, I believe, has one. Let me go double check. A lot of properties at the very end have this 3D floor plan. And so that way you can tell, one, where things are. And so if you're someone like me, I'm actually doing this morning, we have a couple retreats coming up. And so as part of that process, I'm trying to figure out, okay, when they say they have this many bedrooms, like, are those king or queens? Because if I have couples, I'm gonna give them kings. If I have singles, I'm gonna give them queens. Are there bunk rooms? Because then I can make sure, but I have to make sure if we have bunks that there's enough rooms for all the guys to be in one bunk room and girls to be in another bunk room. Is that possible with singles? And so all this stuff I'm looking for and researching, and families do the exact same thing. They're trying to figure out, okay, if it's, my family and this other family are traveling together, well, I have 3 boys, they have 3 girls. We're gonna make sure they're in separate rooms. They have individual bathrooms. Is that a thing? And it's hard to tell a lot of times by the description of where things are. And so we'll include these 3D mocked up images. Andrew Keller does them, but you can also just go on Fiverr and look for someone who makes these type of images. They're like 3D floor plans, and you can just send them photos of your property with like a basic floor plan, and they could make up this with like the textures and all that kind of stuff in it. These are cool because it actually has the like actual artwork on different walls and a lot of the textures from different things, so it makes it super, super cool. But my point of that is to say that part of your description, you want to be as specific as possible, but you also want to give as much detail as possible through the rest of everything else. So that's why, like I said, I want my title to match my first 5. If I talk about something in my title, it should be my first 5 as well. Talk about a hot tub, show a hot tub, that kind of thing. I also want to be as descriptive as possible when I'm talking about the different bedrooms, the different bathrooms, where they are inside the property, what's included, what's where, what are local attractions. Include these. If I include an image of Sugar Mountain Resort or Downtown Banner Elk in my images, which you should totally do. Change your photo or force you to do the tour. It might, honestly. You want to include all of the local things, include some of these images of this other stuff. And so a lot of times we're so focused on like, it's all my property, but there's a ton of stock you can pull from, or just shoot when you're down there. You go visit the property, you're checking on it once a year, whatever. Shoot some local content. What are some local restaurants? What are some local things? What are some things in the area? You don't need to have a fancy camera for that. You can just take out your phone with you and actually be able to change. Excuse me. You actually be able to change and be able to get some of the photos of some of the local stuff that's around the area. Then include that in your listing as well as part of your whole thing. So talked a lot about kind of listings, different things that we do. Let me get out of all these images. But I want to talk about one important thing. So no matter what you do, no matter how you do it, do not make a bunch of changes all at once, because you won't be able to know what happened. So the most important part about whenever you're testing something or whenever you're trying to track something is you want to see where you are currently. You want to make a change. So either change the headline or I change my cover photo. Let it sit and see whether I increase or decrease. And then if I increase, awesome, leave the change, make another change. If I decrease, I need to revert back to where I was, let it settle, and then make another change. I don't want to just do a bunch of stuff at once. So that's why you want to, when you first launch it, when you first launch it, you want to get all the stuff in there, so that way you kind of see where things settle, and it's easier to make changes over time. If you like currently don't have all your image captions, well, there's no real way to do that. You kind of got to put all your image captions in, let it settle for a couple days, and then kind of see where things land. There's no real way around around stuff like that. But make sure as you're testing, one small change at a time, then dig deeper into it, then make other changes, but do them incrementally, not just a big, I change all the photos around and I change the description and I change the cover photo, and then my listing went haywire. I know what's going on. Same thing works for Facebook ads as well. That if you're going through and you're creating Facebook ads, that you make changes, you make incremental changes. So if you saw, okay, these headlines worked or this photo worked, you make changes similar, but you don't necessarily change everything all at once, or even landing pages. You don't change everything all at once. You make small changes over time, just incrementally, see how they perform, make more changes, see how they perform, make more changes. And that's where I'll plug RankBreeze. It's super, super cool for tracking a lot of that, because you rank differently for different bedroom counts. You rank differently for how people are searching, and so be able to kind of track that a little bit easier. I always still go in incognito mode and double check a lot of that stuff, because you want to know for sure. But to be able to have just a general idea and be able to quickly kind of know, okay, yes, we were ranked on page 1, we're on page 2, for certain bedroom counts, and then make changes, and then wait a couple days, go back in and check, okay, now we're on page 1, now we're higher on page 1, and kind of just keep making those changes over time, again and again and again. Last week kind of leads into this week, where we use a lot of AI to kind of help in the process of taking similar titles and then make new titles based on it, taking a description, making a new description, or making updates to certain parts of the description, even having it find, what's the top 10 attractions in a particular market, and then what's its distance from this address, that kind of thing. It can help you do a lot of those things. So just keep that in mind as you do all that. And so thank you. That's it for my listing optimization today. Just kind of make sure you kind of take all the parts and pieces into account, what other people are doing when it comes to your headline and your cover photo. Making sure your headline or your title matches and kind of goes along with your top 5 photos. Making sure your top 5 photos are unique, and they show different aspects of the property. No repeats, no 2 photos of the same area from basically the same angle, which happens a lot. And then ordering your photos in a way that makes sense. Every photo should have a caption. Use your description. You have a ton of space to use there, so use it to include not just details about the property, but details about the area, and get all that done. And then once it's done, you go through the process of testing the order of photos, testing different top 5, testing different titles, and then knowing that those changes are actually making a difference, positive or negative. So thank you all. Thank you for being here today. And we'll catch you guys again next week on a Marketing Monday. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone. See y'all.